part of ISB's admissions team. And today we have a panel of students, the current students that we have for PGP, Harshal, Himanshu, Kunal, and Shrishti. We'll be discussing today about how to write one of the most intriguing essays that you will think of writing, and what are the things that you should keep in mind while writing those essays, and what are the do's and don'ts of writing a good essay. So we'll be taking a lot of questions also regarding the essays. You can also raise your hands once you have any questions about the initial discussions that we are going to have, and we'll unmute you one by one. In fact, the panelists can also unmute you, and they will be asking you the questions where you can just say whatever you have in your mind, particularly about the essays that we are talking about. So I would like to invite Harshal now. Harshal, you can go ahead with your introduction, and then I think all of you can give your introductions and we take it forward from there.
Sure, thanks, Ketan. Hello, everyone. My name is Harshal Pathak. I'm a student of the current PGP batch. I am a chartered accountant by qualification with nearly 6 years of work ex. Of those 6 years, I've worked for 5 years in the mergers and acquisitions deal advisory space across Deloitte and EY, evenly split at about 2.5 years in each firm. I also spent 9 months of my career at an NGO called Kotak Education Foundation, where I took up a leadership role and I built an MIS framework for them ground up. And for some of you who might be interested, I'm a reapplicant. I didn't make it in the first attempt when I applied to ISB. This was the second time I applied and I got through. And yeah, I look forward to interacting with all of you, and I hope this is a helpful session. Thanks.
I'll go next then. Hey, hi everyone. It wasn't long ago that all of us were on the other side, and happy to be able to help you guys. So my name is Himanshu Arora. I did my undergrad in chemical engineering from NIT Bhopal, post which I joined Bharat Petroleum, which is an oil and gas public sector company. I worked in the refinery operations, and I have also served in the Indian Army as lieutenant in their Territorial Army Division. So I come with a somewhat niche background and a little higher work ex than the ISB average. So I would be happy to help candidates who have questions regarding those things. Over to you, Shrishti.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Shrishti. I am an artist and I had a startup of my own. It's called Hurdangi Productions. So that is the background that I come from, primarily from the media and entertainment space. I've worked there for about 3.5 years professionally. Before that, I did my undergraduation from Stephens in history, followed by law. So compared to most of the people you'd meet here, it's a slightly different profile. And for me, because of that reason, my essay was one of the most important things that I did as a part of my application process. I'm an R3 admit. So yeah, if you have any questions with respect to that, or any misconceptions that only R1 admits, are considered better or anything of that sort, I'd be more than happy to break that myth for you.
Hi guys, my name is Kunal. I am a mechanical engineer. I did my undergraduation in 2015. Post that, I worked for around 6 years, more than 6 years actually, in core engineering industry. That was engineering, procurement and construction space for oil and gas and energy sector. So if I talk in a layman's language, we used to build power plants, refineries, or petrochemical plants that you all see. So my experience in that space is of a project, is of the project management side. I am an R2 admit, and I have around 6.7 years of experience. So any questions regarding that I can take. Thank you.
Great. So I guess we elucidate a lot about, the diversity at ISB. So it's a small manifestation of that diversity today that we have, and it's good to have you people. So, we have some questions which were the most frequently asked questions that we have received. So the first question that we have is, what is the weightage given to essays in the selection process? I would go to Harshal first, and then of course, you people can also add to it.
So it's difficult to put a number on how much percentage weightage is given to an essay, but I would say a high amount of weightage, right? It's probably the most important part of your application, because essentially what an essay does is it is your marketing document in that essay. It is your justification or your logic for why you should be picked over the thousands of other candidates that have applied, right? So what an essay essentially does is it needs to convey your side of the story, and it needs to do that very effectively in those 400 word limit that you have. So I would say a huge amount of weightage on the essays. Probably the most important part of your application.
Kunal, would you like to add something?
So I've been asking this question myself when I was attending info sessions such as this, and I was trying to put a number on the GMAT score I had and on the essays, on the application that I was writing. One way to think about it is from the school's perspective as well, and the fact that everyone in ISB has a diverse background. We are coming with a lot of experience. One major way of learning in ISB is through peer-to-peer learning, and the college wants you to contribute in that. To communicate to the authority that you have the ability to add value to the cohort, you need to write a good essay. So think of it as your communication to the organization, to the college. You have to write it properly. You have to convey properly that you are fit for admission into this cohort. So when it comes to weightage, yes, essay is very important. Might not be as the GMAT score even might not be as important as essay, because you need to come up with a personality of yourself in that word limit, as Harshal pointed out.
Correct. Correct. Srishti, Himanshu, you have anything to add to this?
Yes, definitely agree with Kunal on this part that as a person with a subpar GMAT score, I can guarantee you that your essay and your profile that you send in is the most important thing for the college. Because even when later on, like once you are a part of ISB, you will realize that before every class, we're given this course outline. And that outline clearly states that every single student who's been picked in this course, there's a reason we're given marks for class participation. It's because we're bringing a very unique perspective. We are very, very different people, and ISB is spending a considerable amount of time trying to map these different people. So more than your GMAT score, more than just any academic spike that you've had, they really care about this. And particularly as, again, furthering what Kunal said, particularly that essay where you speak of what is it that you're bringing to the cohort, the college genuinely really cares about it. And that's something you'll also realize once you come to campus. So make sure that you're bringing that out, and make sure that you have a genuine reason to be here, apart from just, wanting to, like, it's really important to the college that apart from everything that you will gain from it, what is it that you can bring to it? And even with your peers in college, that's something you'll experience, that they really care about what is it that you're bringing to the cohort as a whole. So make sure you focus on that when you're writing it.
Himanshu, you're last in the queue. I'm sure there is something left to say.
No, I think Kunal, Harshal, and Srishti covered most of it. But one thing I would like to mention is that, there are limited number of things you can write in your application. There are word limits of 100 words, awards, achievements, but essays give you the liberty to write whatever you want to write, because many things would not be covered in the application, and everybody brings in a different personality. So I think with that liberty, you can really bring out what you are offering as a diverse candidate, and ISB really looks forward for that. So yeah,
I'm sure. So the gist is basically, when we also talk to the students, we tell them that all of us like stories, and the essays basically give you a chance to write your story in the best possible way. So that is the importance of essays. Second question which I have with me is, I'll straight away go to Kunal with this, right? So how much time one should keep in hand, ideally, for a good essay to write?
I think a good essay can be written in a day or so. So it's not like you need to reserve a month to prepare your essays. Just that if you know your story, you really know why you want to pursue MBA, you can jot down a 400-word essay in a day, and then keep refining it, keep showing it to people who know you or who don't know you as well, so that they can actually read the essay and give you feedback about that, if the essay is is able to communicate what you're trying to communicate to the school. So for example, if I read your essay and your personality is not coming out, then you need to change something in it. So there's no definite timeline on how much time you need to reserve for writing a good essay. Like, I think more time should be put in to do your research on why you want to go for MBA and why you select ISB. After that, the essay writing part is not that difficult. I think.
Correct. Srishti, do you have anything else to add to it?
No, pretty much the same. Like spend a lot of time doing your R&D. Like be very clear, like whenever you get, the questions, there are usually these 4-5 standard questions that you get. And once you're actually very clear on why you want to be here, what do you really want to do 5-10 years from now? When you have those points jotted in front of you, and it's very clear what are the anecdotes that you wish to attach to it, because they bring out those specific qualities or bring out, how passionate you are about doing things a certain way. It'll be very easy for you to write it down. But that entire process takes time because you have to cater for time for R&D. The writing portion may not take that long, but once you go in for multiple rounds of feedbacks, it may take time. Also, I think it's a very personal thing. Like some people write very fast. In my case, like I write the essay very fast, but every time I went back and visited it, at that point I was very happy. You have written a great essay. And then like half an hour later, I've gone back and I'm like, yeah. So then, there were like multiple rounds of reiterations that go into it. So just make sure you start well in time. Like, don't be like, I have an application tomorrow. Let me start today.
Correct. So with a little bit of fervor for writing, I can say one thing to everybody who's listening to us. That's right. There is a difference between writing and typing, right? So typing happens pretty fast, but writing mostly happens in the brain, right? What you have, the ideas that you have, isn't it? So give yourself some time to develop those ideas, and so that you write in the best of things that you have with you, and do not leave out things which you should have put in your application. So Himanshu, Harshal, if anything else, do you have, if you want to add with this, we can go ahead with it.
Yeah, I would add to it. I think I would give you a typical MBA answer for it, that it depends. Because a lot of you would be having jobs while writing and essays. So basically you have to take out enough time because, again, working under pressure would not bring out the same flavor in your essay. So I think the more structured your approach is, the lesser time it will take. Because I remember, as Srishti said, I wrote my essays, and a day later I felt, no, I have not done justice to it. I could have written this and that. So the better structure for it would be to jot down all the points you want to write, all your qualities, whatever, and then choose 2-3 best of the best qualities among them and write on those. Because I remember, I gave 2 examples, I wrote about 3 or 4 examples. I ended up selecting 2, I think, which were mostly adding the most value to my essay. So I think if you follow a structured approach, it's gonna take lesser time. So yeah.
Correct. Harshal, you are the only one left out.
Yeah, I think these guys have hit the nail on the head. I completely concur with what Himanshu said. I personally adopted an approach where I didn't rush into writing the essay, right? It's absolutely essential that you spend more time in ideating than rushing into writing the essay.
Correct.
Because you'll realize that introspecting, reflecting, you'll realize you've never done that. This essay gives you a chance to actually stand in front of a mirror and take a good look at yourself in terms of how far you've come, what are the achievements you've been able to accomplish so far. And you'll realize how difficult it is, right? You've never looked at yourself through that lens. So the process of reflecting and putting those points down on paper will take time. So it is important that you budget that in the overall application timelines so that you have enough time to sit and think about what you really want to put in those essays.
I think correctly put. In fact, just for the benefit of all the participants, you keep raising your hands. Please raise them. Once we are thorough with the discussions, we'll be taking your questions one by one. So the next question which I have, and it's a question which is generally asked by people when we are also there in the info sessions, that if we have a gap year, let's say, gap year in terms of any of the years that we didn't want to study, we were not in mood probably, or when we were on a job vacation, I would say, right. So what happens of those gap years? Do we mention that, and how do we mention that so that it is acting as an advantage for us? And I hope it does not act as an impediment as far as submitting application is concerned. I will go to Srishti this time for this question.
All right. So, but definitely talk about it, because your essays, or in general your profile would be a great space for you to be able to explain that. If and you need to understand that it's very important to express what kind of value you brought into your life during this period that you've taken a gap. So maybe you weren't, getting an education at that point of time, or you were not formally working on a job, but you were, I don't know, doing social work somewhere, or maybe you just took a year off to travel. Maybe that's what you were doing, but you need to explain how that added to you as a person. What kind of qualities have you developed because of this? How has it in general contributed to maybe even your professional capacity? What have you picked up over the years in that, and why was that year important for you, or how has it helped you grow? If you can bring that out, you're actually utilizing that gap as an advantage to yourself. So at least this is how I see it. Then again, I think I'm not the best person to talk about it, because I did not face this on my profile. So if somebody else did, I think they'd be a better person. But at least this is how, like, if I did, this is how I would go about it.
Yeah. Himanshu, do you have anything to contribute to this?
So even I didn't have a gap as such, but I think Srishti pretty much have covered everything, because you can use it to your advantage. It can work both ways. If you're able to explain what you did in this 1 year and how it adds value to your application, that's great. And if you're not able to, because at certain point of time, if not in essay, later at applications, maybe during interview, you might face this question. So you have to be prepared for it anyways. Better do it now, and bring out how it added value to your profile overall.
Correct. Harshal, Kunal, anything you want to add? I mean, otherwise,
I'd like to add something here, since I am someone who had a 3-month break on his CV, right? When I quit my first job and I started prepping for GMAT and my first ISB application, I took a 3-month break, right? This question was something that crossed my mind, where should I put this on my resume? Should I take out time and effort to somehow structure this whole argument on why I took a break, and how do I spin it off, and how do I justify it? The way I looked at it is, if it's not a very substantial break, so in my case, it was a 3-month break, I did not bother justifying it, for the simple reason that there was a point in time where in the Indian corporate world, there was a stigma around a break on your resume, right? Suddenly people questioned your reasoning and your ability to logically come to a conclusion, saying, oh, he's taken a break, there's something wrong here, right? We have moved away as a society from that. I think people are more open to the fact that, okay, burnouts are real, or you could have any personal reason which could lead to a short 1 to 3 month break. It's not something that specifically requires justification. But like Srishti mentioned, if it's a 1 year long break that you've taken where you've stayed out of touch with what your core profession is, then maybe, yeah, it does make sense to somehow justify it or talk about it. But just keep one thing in mind, is that 400 words is what you're operating on, right? So the moment you decide to talk about something, it's precious real estate that you are allocating to that particular topic. So if it is not something that is very material, it's fine to leave it out. I left it out because I knew the moment it had come up in my interview, I would simply say that, yeah, I was studying for GMAT. That's how I used my time. And it was as simple as that.
Perfect. Perfect.
Just to add an example, if it might help, I know someone here, my best friend here, was preparing for UPSC for 2 years, because of which there is a gap on his CV. But he has, in his essays or in general on his profile or his CV also, very beautifully kind of captured the amount of knowledge he has gained through the entire process of preparation. And the kind of grit it's taken to do that, and how he has so much of an understanding of the Indian governance structure and in general society and polity, etc. at the moment. So if it is that significant, and if you want to somewhere utilize an anecdote to talk about it, you could capitalize on something like this. It's a major value add.
Wonderful, wonderful, Srishti, and thank you. The next question, I think, again, it's a very ubiquitous question, very common. Everywhere that we go, I mean, this question is asked, that is it advisable that we go to somebody who's an expert or who is a third party like person preparing people for admissions into ISB, to take their help and their advice and their suggestions into writing one's essays? What do you people suggest? Himanshu, I guess.
Okay, I'll start. So again, it depends, to be very honest, because at the end of the day, you want an admit and you want your essay to be of good enough quality. If you are someone, if you are struggling with time due to your job and you feel you're someone who do not have a flair for writing. But again, even if you do that, because I did not go to a consultant, I wrote my essay myself. So because I started early and I had enough time to work on it, to go through multiple iterations. So again, I would say ki sometimes it happens. I talked to few alums who were there, and the uniqueness should be there. Many a times you would feel if you are going to a consultant and they are writing essays for you, it might be like you don't feel that it's something that probably you would have written, or bringing out your flavor. So be mindful of that. But again, there are processes so consultants also follow a certain process. They want you to introspect a lot. So they have a question or something of the sorts. So even if you do that, even if you don't do that, at the end of the day, if you are satisfied with your essays and you feel, because there's only one chance you get in a year, right? So the end satisfaction matters more. So you can choose either depending on yourself.
Got it. Kunal, please.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to tell everyone that if you are planning to hire someone to write your essay, don't do that, because you'll get caught in the interview. See, people who are taking your interviews are seasoned industry leaders who are ISB alums who have survived this 1 year and then again probably more than 10 years in the industry, and they can catch lies when they hear it. So if I come back to the original question, if I break it down, you can take help in writing. After writing your story, you can actually ask someone to vet your essay and, take out grammatical mistakes or maybe the style of writing, or maybe if you're not able to convey what you're trying to say. But more importantly, I think if you really require help in your application, you require help in envisioning where you see yourself in the future, for example. What future prospects are there after ISB? In that area, if you take help from a consulting or from a counselor, that's all right. But make sure no one's cooking up a essay for you, because that will lead you nowhere. That's what my take is.
Perfect. Harshal, Shrishti, if you people have anything to add to it.
Yeah, again, pretty similar to what Kunal said. Definitely do not get somebody to write it for you. Most of these companies have like templates that are in place. Your uniqueness, which is the main thing that would get you into ISB, would just be robbed of you. You're ruining your chances. However, again, there are organizations I know which are specifically, in fact, even contacting alums from the particular college that you're applying to, and they help vet your essays. So that if you want somebody who's previously been a part of college to vet your essay for you, help you with interview prep or something, that's different. But like, I cannot insist enough, do not get someone else to write your essay.
Yes. Okay. So, that is one thing which we always propagate and tell everyone and delineate that please write your own story, because nobody knows more about you than you yourself, right? If you have to recall something which you have forgotten, probably go to your parents and they will tell you a few things about yourself which you probably don't remember as of now. But now the next question which comes, which is a indirect corollary with this question, is that okay, we are writing our essays ourselves, but then what are the key pointers? Because most of them are writing it for the first time. What are the key pointers that people should keep in mind while writing the essay? And this question has two parts, one for the people who are experienced and one for the people who are YLP candidates. So if we can explain that, I think it'll be solving a lot of queries. Harshal, I think we should go to you. Yeah.
Sure. So I think a strong essay, what is most important is there needs to be an underlying theme to your essay. It can't be you just tying back 2-3 abstract points into a few paragraphs and putting it all together, right? Like it's been mentioned so many times on this call, it's your story, right? So it needs to flow like a story. The person reading it needs to when they read your essay, they need to think that, okay, I'm getting to know this person, essentially. And how I personally went about my essay is, when you sit and ideate on what are those 4, 5, 7, 10 points that you can come up with, pick the 2, 3, 4 points. Ideally, I wouldn't even go to 4. I pick the 2 to 3 points at best that you feel are closely interlinked and that you can weave into one another to build a very cohesive narrative for yourself, right? And there's one thing that is absolutely essential on your ISB essay, which is the absolute maddening need to show consistency in whatever you've done. You cannot say I'm passionate about social work and having done it for only 6 months in your life, right? It does not show passion. If you say you're passionate about social work, you should consistently have that theme across your application and essay where you've done it over a longer period of time. Similarly, if you say sports is a passion, you can't say I've played in school at state level and then I've dropped it, because then it's not a passion. It has to be a consistent theme. So your essay needs to highlight consistency, but along with consistency, you also need to highlight excellence. Whatever you do, you need to excel at it, right? And that essentially just shows that you have the grit as well as the talent to do what you do. As far as highlighting experience goes, for people who have a lot of experience and people who have YLPs, I think you guys are on the opposite ends of the spectrum. One set of people are going to have way too much to write, and one set of people will just think, I don't know what to write. I just don't have things here, right? So for WorkX, people with heavy WorkX, I applied with 5+ years of WorkX, right? I had a tremendous amount of content to write on that application. In fact, I had to be conscious of the fact that I'm not overloading my essay with just work-related stuff. I had to highlight other aspects of my personality. So try not to get carried away and make it a very WorkX heavy essay. While it is absolutely essential to highlight what your achievements are, it is also important to highlight what do you do other than work, right? Because that is as important as your WorkX. WorkX, try highlighting your achievements. If you've gotten promotion, awards, recognitions, highlight that. How have you made an impact at your workplace? What did you do that others were not able to do? If there are those 1 or 2 things for which you are the go-to person at your workplace, bring that out, because it just shows that you did something others at your workplace couldn't do, right? And that makes you indispensable for your workplace. And those are the kind of qualities ISB would look for. Other than that, were there any firm building exercises? Like I used to do a lot of that at my workplace, where I'd be on the planning panel for hosting football tournaments, firm-wide football tournaments. I'd be on the organizing committee for that. Now, those are the kind of things that highlight that you have enterprise. You can take initiatives in a firm that are beyond work, and you care about camaraderie and team building, which is an essential part of what you also do at ISB, right? So those are, I would say, in a very corporate way, that those are transferable skill sets, which straight go from your workplace to ISB, and you can, at ISB, sky is the limit. You can do whatever you want, you can plan whatever you want, and nobody's going to stop you. So if you have those qualities in you, those are very helpful qualities to bring to campus. For people with lower WorkX, right? What do you highlight? Just because you have lower WorkX does not mean you don't have achievements. For you, what would be essential is academical spikes, right? You could have been a brilliant student throughout your life. Highlight that. You could have been a national level sports player. Highlight that. Someone like Srishti, who's been great at arts, highlight that, right? These are qualities which, when you don't have as much WorkX, you need to highlight to show how strong a character you are, right? And beyond that, even if you work for just a year, if in that 1 year your ratings were through the roof, that's a spike. Highlight that. That just shows that you were able, even with limited WorkX, you were able to deliver a certain level of quality, right? So these are broad markers. I think it's an endless ocean where you can just go on and on about what you can write and what you cannot. But broadly, these would be markers that I would lay down in terms of having at least a skeletal network out there in terms of what you want to cover and how you want.
Kunal, I'm sure you must have things to add to this answer as well.
So I'll actually add something about how people can do it. So Harshal spoke a lot about what to write, but if you want to figure out how to know for sure that okay, this is something I want to mention, go to the ISB's website, for example, go to the PGP page, go see how many social clubs are there, see how many see how many core clubs are there, corporate clubs are there. Can you add on your skills to these clubs? See how many events that are happening. So see, there are a lot of events happening throughout the year. ISB is like full of things to do. You can never get bored. So a lot of events happening. You can always, if you're a person who has been in your college organizing annual fest and all, you can certainly add over there. So you can map your skills to the year at ISB just by looking at the website. So do that. Have a I'm talking about the essay where you have to write about, your goal clarity and why you want to go for the PGP course, right? So you have to have a goal clarity, what you want to do after ISB. So how do you figure that out is one thing that you guys need to know. So look at companies that come to ISB, look at what those companies are doing, look at what you are doing right now and how the transferable skills that you have, can you connect those skills to the future employers? That'll be a good thing to write in your essay. How you can add to the cohort at PGP. I have repeated that point now. Say like, so are you very good at something that you can actually help your cohort mates with? That's a good point that can come up with in an essay. So a lot of things, but these are some things that we have been seeing a lot in essays. So you can do that.
So Kunal, since you're already answering it at the expense of sounding very mundane, I can ask just one more question because, when we go out in these info sessions, there are a lot of engineers, right? And they are actually petrified that if there are so many engineers applying, what can they write in their essay so as to basically segregate them from the huge plethora of people who are actually thronging in for these applications?
I would suggest just stop looking at engineers like just engineers or, engineering is a very wide domain. For example, I have come from a field where I've been building power plants, refineries, petrochemicals, nuclear plants. So the field I belong to, it takes around 2 years to get a project completed, and you're dealing with billions of dollars over there. It's a core engineering job. You are deploying like 6 engineering departments are colluding to produce a product for the client. On the other hand, a software engineer is doing a different thing altogether. So highlight the type of work that you're doing, highlight the skills that you're using in that work. No one's looking at your profile as just engineers. Okay, this is another engineer here. No, highlight your work. Apart from that, the co-curricular section that there is, you can actually, for example, I use that to segregate myself from, as I thought at that point was just a field of, segmentation of an engineer. So I've worked in the social impact space for a long time and in different organizations. So I made sure that I highlighted that fact so that I could come across as someone who has not been just working, but also been doing something that he's passionate about.
Correct. So, we have Himanshu and Shrishti also. I'm sure they wrote their essays as well. So if there is anything which the two very learned participants that we have, they have not answered, then probably you can go ahead and cover that.
ISB takes away the myth that you feel that you're learned within 1 week of coming in. But no, I think 2, 3 very quick points. One, just remember you're not writing a blog. Think of it as content writing for a brand that is you. Okay, so you have to be very precise, very crisp. A big trap that a lot of very, very good writers fall for is to be very poetic in the way that we write. And a lot of people feel underconfident that, I haven't written about, I have traveled the length and breadth of India, which is this. No, just map out. There are these specific anecdotes that I definitely want to highlight about myself because they bring out certain leadership qualities or certain extremely important qualities, which I feel will not only when I club them with the skill sets that I pick up at ISB, they'll help me do really well in life and be able to get to, whatever company or whatever goal that I wish to achieve. As not just companies, by the way, ISB is really encouraging of people who come from an entrepreneurial background. So if you are even looking at starting something of your own, you can talk about that. So point coming back to, just make sure, your anecdotes are very sorted. And when you're sure of, okay, these are the stories that I want to talk about, then tie up everything that you kind of have in mind to, how you can bring these out. Also, don't fall into the trap of, okay, meko nahi yehi story likhni hai. Like, this is what I want to write. And even though the question's not asking me this is what I will bring out. Don't do that. I'm sure very specific to the question, you will have your own stories. So yes, be very, very, like, as Harshal pointed out, it's precious realistic. So every word that you're writing, at one point, like, when you'll be editing your essay, it won't be so much about, whether the story is right or not. It'll be, you're removing that one word because it's not fitting into the 400 word mark for you. So, how you're rewording the sentence, etc. Is it making sense grammatically? And is it still flowing when you're maintaining, that chronology in which you're writing? Again, just kind of reiterating what Kunal said, make sure that you're going to see those clubs, etc. that I mentioned there. Speak to alums. It's very important that in your essay, you're bringing out to the college that you visualize yourself there. And, think of it as a psychological hack if you want to, but like, just make sure you're putting it out there. Like, you can see yourself there, that, oh, I see myself being, I don't know, the SLC director organizing XYZ things, or I want to be the, I don't know, entrepreneurship and venture capital club president, or just be a part of the club and, contribute in XYZ way, because it will contribute to my skill set in this manner, which will help with my goal for the next 5 years, which will then contribute to my goal in the next 10 years. That's very important. And yeah, as again, Harshal pointed out, consistency is key. So just keep your story sorted, keep it crisp, make sure it's content and not a blog. And it's not so much about how beautifully you word it as much as how clearly you word it. That's it.
Great. Himanshu, any ingenious ideas or any ingenious suggestions that you have for the people?
I think they have covered pretty much everything. I would just want to stress on a couple of points.
Yeah.
The storytelling is very, very important. Do not think of those examples in a segregated way. Make sure you weave them into a story. Like in my essay, I made sure, like, so from early I was involved in family business. So what I learned there and how it has helped me professionally, then how my military experience helped me those skills, and coming to ISB, what I can gain from ISB. So all those different, experiences of my life, I weave them together. And that's how you should write your story. And second, the examples that you give, make sure you give examples, first of all. Just don't write ki I'm this and that, and you have to follow it up with examples. Also, don't just write I'm hardworking, punctual. That's the bare minimum expected from you if you're coming to ISB. So your examples have to be very concrete and meaty. So I think the most important part is self-introspection. Do spend a lot of time on that. Come out. I'm sure if you spend enough time, you will come up with examples which, you can write in your essays to add value. So yeah, those points I wanted to stress about.
Now, wonderfully put. In fact, I was listening very cleanly. And as a part of the admissions team, we also get to read some of the essays. So unfortunately, I mean, I'm a voracious reader, so I read a lot. And one of the essays, it started with a line, "Success is counted the sweetest by those who never succeed." I mean, that's a beautiful line, but unfortunate part is that's not an original line. I read it in my class 11th. It's written by Emily Dickinson. So, there is no problem with any kind of aphorisms, anecdotes, or any kind of quotations that you want to come up with. The only prerequisite and the sacrosanct factor is that it should come out from yourself, right? Rather than copying somebody else. And that is what we are looking for. You're not looking for any like kahawat from somebody else that you put in your essay, right? So just keep it in your mind and just keep it simple and original. One of the questions, again, which is a very pertinent one, and very many people ask that, is that, let's say if somebody is a reapplicant, does he make any changes in his previous essays? Because he also gets to write another essay, right? So what does he do ideally in those two essays? Does he keep them as it is, or he changes them? And what does he write in the final essay, the third essay that he has to write? I'll go for who is left out. I think Srishti. Srishti, I think I'll go to you.
I will answer this, but the best person to answer this is Harsh. I do know a little about this because my brother went to ISB as well, and he applied twice. And one of the most important feedbacks he received at that point of time was, you need to show growth. If you are the exact same person you were 1 year ago, whose application was rejected for whatever reason, why would we want you now if you are the exact same person, right? The whole idea is that ISB really respects growth. I think we as people, like everybody they've handpicked here, you just realize once you come here, the culture is so beautiful. Like everybody is very appreciative of each other. And when we see each other growing, that is also something that we appreciate a lot. So make sure you're bringing that out. Like any feedback that you've received, your rejection is not something that should break you. It should be something that is encouraging you to kind of sit back, rethink it and then work on it and improve whatever it is. So if you can show that spike, that growth, that okay, last year I was here, but this year I have kind of managed to improve it to XYZ, add some anecdotes to it, show how you've improved, whether it's through your client relations, etc., whatever way you can do that. Maybe you run your, like, I will give this example because that's where I come from. Maybe in terms of your startup, you were in a certain place the previous year, but this year you've managed to increase your year-on-year growth. How you've managed to do that, what kind of partnerships have you created, what kind of collaborations have you created. Again, artistically, if you've done something new, I don't know, new productions you've worked on, so you could bring all of that out and put it forward in your essay.
Great. Harshal, I'll come to you as well. I think you also have a few good things to say about this question, isn't it?
Yeah, because been there, done that, right? For me, I think one absolutely essential piece of advice I'd give to any reapplicant is please don't rush into it. Okay. My first instinct after the first rejection was to apply immediately the next year, right? And what Srishti mentioned is as true as it can get, right? 1 year is not enough time typically. Okay, I'm not saying this as a blanket statement, but generally for most people, 1 year is not enough time to drastically grow or change to a point where you're a different person altogether, right? For me, had I gone ahead with that application, and believe me or not, I had all 3 essays drafted for the application the very next year, but I just chose not to submit that application, is because I realized that the essays that I'm writing are very similar to what I had submitted the last year. Okay, the wordings are different because of obvious reasons, but am I a very different person from what I was last year, or have I done something that is very different? The answer to that was a very resounding no, right? So it is important that you're honest with yourself when you're doing that assessment. When you ask yourself that question, that have I grown from the last time I've applied, if the answer to that is a no, then hold it back. I took 2.5 years to apply again. Okay. And in those 2.5 years, I had grown leaps and bounds to a point where after my second interview, I was 100% sure I'm getting the admit, right? Because there were 2 major changes in my profile. First, I did the NGO gig, right? I took up a leadership role. I created impact that I never imagined I could create, right? I leveraged skill sets that I gained in Deloitte and I put it to an entirely different application, helping thousands of students along the way, right? So that was a huge thing that I was able to do. Post that, I went back to doing what I was doing at Deloitte, but at EY, which is the market leader and ahead of Deloitte by a head and shoulders, right? I got to work on the best of deals. I got to work with the who's who in the M&A world. And just the way I approached my work and everything else just transformed. There was a sea change from the last time I applied. So when that is the kind of growth trajectory you've seen, that's a great time to apply. And that's when I was convinced that, okay, now I'm ready to apply for the second time. And that's when you are at a point where you have so much to write in an essay that you don't know, okay, what should I cut out and what should I not? Because you have a lot of spikes along the way. And each one of them will add value to your essay, right? So reapplications can be tricky. I completely understand that applicants are in that rush to apply again and you just want to get back on the saddle. But it is also important to be very rational and very logical when you're making those decisions. So patience is a virtue here. It'll more often than not work out in your favor if you choose to be patient. And that's the biggest advice I can give any reapplicant.
Kunal and Himanshu, anything that you want to add to these profound answers? Great.
They both had some sort of personal experience, so they could add to it. Nothing, I think they both have.
One of the questions which I picked from the chat box is, very unique question, very interesting as well. How to balance the vulnerability quotient in the essay? Since the essay has to be concluded in 400 words, it becomes tricky. So, please, Kunal, can you please go ahead with this? How to balance the vulnerability
question?
Yeah.
I don't think I can answer that. I'm hearing it for the first time.
So probably,
I think if you're writing genuinely, your vulnerability will naturally come out. You don't need to be careful about how vulnerable you are. But yeah, like, don't portray yourself as someone. Like, some people have this imposter syndrome, right? Like, wherever they go, they feel that okay, they don't deserve to be there. So don't be like that person. Be confident in what you have done and what you have achieved, and I think the vulnerability will naturally come out. I'm not sure this is the best answer, though.
great.
Can I take a stab at it?
Please.
So how I look at vulnerability is, it doesn't have to be a sob story, right? Vulnerability, how I equate it in the context of an essay, is honesty. As far as you being completely transparent and honest about the journey you've had, and along the way everyone's had our own fair share of setbacks. And when you're able to talk about those setbacks in an open forum, admit to the fact that yes, I've had my falls, but I've had the ability to get up, shrug it off, and move on with my life. I think that's as vulnerable as you can get on an essay, right? It is important that it does not become a very personal essay, because at the end of the day, you're coming to an organization that is highly professional. And while somehow imbibing that personal aspect is important, it cannot entirely be a personal vulnerability story there, right? So how I had tried to portray that was CA, I am a chartered accountant. Any chartered accountants here would know the trauma of going through that course, right? It's one of the toughest things you can do. You'll see failures along the way, and those failures will hit you hard, right? CA final was the first time I ever failed in my life. I had never failed until then. And that hits you hard, right? But how I had brought that out in my essay was that how at 11:30 a.m. my results were out and I saw failed for the first time in my life. And at 1 o'clock, I was back on my study table, back at it. And this is a true story. There's not a bit of exaggeration here. So that was my way of admitting that I am not the ranker or the standout academician here. I've had my fair share of setbacks, but I've had the ability to overcome it, and in a good way, right? I've had a decent enough career after that. So that is how I would bring about vulnerability in the essay.
Great. I think it was very well answered. Probably I cannot see any questions in front of me, which I noted down initially. So what we'll do is we'll go with people who have raised their hands. I can see Vivek there. Vivek, I'm allowing you to talk. If you have any questions relating to essays, application process, student experience, please ask our panelist. I'm allowing you to talk now.
Hi,
Yes.
good evening, everyone.
Yes.
So my point is, I have fair enough experience of about 4.5 years, and I am working with a very hyper growth startup. But now I feel like having an MBA. I am from engineering background. I have integrated masters in technology. So I just wanted to know whether, and I have aspiration to build my startup on my own. So should I elaborate all those aspirations in the essay? That's what I would like to know. Thank
I
you.
can take that one. Yes. ISB would love for you to talk about that. We have an incubation center here. It's known as the D Labs. And I would, in fact, really recommend that you go and Google about iVentures. You Google about iSprout, both of these names. And in our incubation center, the college is actively working towards helping out entrepreneurs. We're literally bringing in programs of figuring out scholarships for students who may not want to sit for placements right away after college and be able to work upon their ideas. So college is extremely encouraging on this front. They're like literally going over and above anything you would expect for them to do. We have a thriving EVC club. There's a lot for you to gain here. And it is very, very important that you show this interest, because the college hopes that in due time, I think I was speaking to one of our professors, they hope that in, I think about 10 years, at least 30% of our cohort are entrepreneurs. So please make sure that you elaborate on this. I'm also certain there is so much you've learned through your startup process, which is a major value add to who you are as a person and what you've learned. So absolutely. And there was another question in the Q&A panel. We asked that their startup failed and should they still talk about it? Absolutely. It doesn't matter. We're all MBA students here. Nobody's expecting us to be unicorn startup founders. If we were, we wouldn't be looking for MBAs. So please talk about it. It's an achievement on its own that you've had the guts to create something of it.
So are we good? Anybody wants to add anything to it? Great. Okay. So Saurav, I can see your hand raised. Do you have any questions for us?
Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, Saurav.
My question is to Ketan. By the way, good evening, everyone.
Hi, good evening.
So I recently graduated last year, and I did not sit in my campus placement. So I had this list of 28 places in India where I wanted to go. Some of them are outside India, which is Kakiori in Nepal, and the one is the Nagapur and Mizoram border, Nagaland and Mizoram border. So I have this 28 places of list of 28 places where I'm doing road trips, some with train and all. So I also want to continue this for next couple of months, which is like will be of 12 months of me traveling different places across the country. So how do I write this in my application? It just doesn't sound like I'm having an employment gap.
Panelists, I'll leave it to you. That's an interesting question.
I think I can
Have you
take
left your job for that? Himanshu, you can go.
No, okay. So he didn't appear for placements, is what I have heard, right? Because he wanted to.
I did not appear.
Yeah.
I used to work as a freelance
yeah.
musician. I have made a good amount of money to travel, and also my family is supported.
Then you have all the things you need to write, right? Because you were working decent enough and you could afford your travel, and you know, you can write about
I started performing on stage at the age of 7, and from 7 to I performed every top cafe at New Delhi, and in 2019 as well as in 2022 I performed in every campus fest which happened in the North India.
As you keep on adding, I see more and more value in it. I mean, this totally makes sense, right? So even I'll tell you, I had traveled, I did not take a break for it, but like I had done few treks, and that was asked in my interview. They explicitly asked me, tell us about your trekking experience. Why did you? So I mentioned, why did I take the trek? And because, you know, you want to build a holistic personality, and there are reasons why do you want to travel, you want to explore places.
I also got to go this place which is Everest Base Camp in Kakiori, where I spent 39 days with top mountaineers. And also I grew up in Bodh Gaya, which is land of enlightenment of Lord Gautam Buddha. So I have this great influence of Buddha in my life. So I also went to Lumbini, which is the birthplace of Gautam Buddha, and spent there. I have a lot of Nepali friends, so I spent there as a monk, not as a proper monk, but all the rituals monks do from 24 hours of their life. Or I also did for 15 days.
So yeah, you can write about it all, the intention of your travel and, the impact that travel had on you. As you mentioned, you spent time with monks and all those mountaineers and how it helped you grow as a person. Because I know for a fact it helps. I went to one track and I have done a couple of tracks later as well. And so do mention about it. I mean, you have to keep in mind the real estate, you allot to it, but you definitely bring out the impact part that it had on you and the reason why you wanted to travel. So you can definitely write about that. No issues with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Ketan, Himanshu, Srishti.
Okay.
Great. So with the traveling, I mean, you get a lot of, eclectic experience coming from different people, different sorts of life experiences that you accumulate. So do write about them. Yeah. Yash, I can see your hand raised. Do you have any questions for us?
Hi everyone. Good evening. I basically had a question, and I would like if Shrishti could help me out with this. That I have 4 years of work ex with the Big Four. I took a year off, but I think my current GMAT score is 680. I don't think it's good enough, at least in my opinion, to apply within round 2. And I just wanted to ask that if I'm not able to get my desired score by November 27th. But let's say by December, I have like a 700 plus score. Am I at a disadvantage not applying in round 2 and pushing it to round 3? Or should I just apply in round 3 with the best possible score I can manage?
Okay. I think there are two parts to your question. One is if your score is sufficient. So I think that's somewhere a personal call. I got on a score lesser than yours. But then again, it depends on what you're bringing in your profile. So that makes a difference. Like I had the confidence of applying in R3 with a score lesser than yours because I knew that there was a certain amount of uniqueness that my profile had. And I knew that that standalone was sufficient to push me through into college. If you think you have enough number of spikes, and this is a personal call, right? Nobody can decide for you whether your profile is good enough. It's something you feel confident with. And if you feel that it is sufficient, you've done enough in your life that one number does not decide that for you, honestly, apply right now itself. But if you feel that you feel underconfident because it's a 680, which by the way is a very good score, it is the average score of a lot of top European colleges as well. And I get it, ISB has a much higher score, but there are sufficient number of people who applied with that as well. Either way, if you feel more confident applying with a higher score, apply in R3. I know a lot of friends, my quaddies, like basically my quad mates, the people who live with me, all 3 of them are R3 admits. And I have a lot of friends who are R3 admits in our college. So you're not at a disadvantage. You're really not. Like if they like your profile and they feel that you add, as we said before, like multiple times today, provided you add value to the cohort, it does not matter when you're applying. And it doesn't even matter like what score you're applying at to that merit, if your profile is something they genuinely believe is going to add a lot of value to the cohort.
Great answer, Srishti. I guess it'll save us a few answers when we go out for info sessions as well. The difference between round 1, round 2, and whatever, right? So I see Ravi Shankar. Ravi, I see your hand raised. Can you just say your question?
Hi, guys. Am I audible?
Yes, Ravi.
Okay. Good evening. First of all, my name is Ravi Shankar, and I'm currently working in an IT company. And my work is 2 years as of October, and I worked as a Scrum Master and a business analyst for multiple projects as for now. And one of them, like it's a new project that I took initiative on in my organization. I took that to the stakeholders, and the stakeholders liked the idea because I'm filling a gap of online learning for the employees who are trying to switch their roles or trying to advance to a very new technologies in the market to adapt those things. So why I took this idea is because so many times I've seen that our applications are not moving forward to a new new technologies because we don't have employees currently with that updatedness. So I took this. Currently, I'm working on it. It's being deployed. So I have, in my opinion, I kind of feel tense that with this kind of experience, do I have a chance in ISB? Like I've seen so many people, I've talked to so many people. Most of them have some very spikes in their careers or some very uniqueness to them. But as coming from an engineering background, doing an IT job, I kind of blurred out like whether I'm standing, whether it's the achievements are getting counted or not. So can you tell me on this?
Kunal, do you want to take this engineer to engineer question?
I'm not experienced in this field actually.
So I can give you something that is a little more, I would probably call it a little generic, but see, it doesn't matter if you're an engineer coming from IT. If you look at our batch, I don't know how many IT based engineers you're going to find. It's difficult to count. That's the number.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't matter what profile you're coming from, as far as you've created an impact, a noteworthy impact in what you've done, and you're able to portray that well in your essays. I don't see why it won't work out, right? It's about how well you highlight what you've done. Firstly, you actually having done substantial work and impact wherever you work. Second is being able to translate all of that into words and put it onto an essay such that a reader is, when they read your essay, they should feel like, okay, I need to meet this person because clearly they've done something, right? And yeah, I think those are the only two things you need to sort of worry about. I wouldn't worry so much about I'll get blurred out in the crowd and what if there are so many other IT guys, because there'll always be that, right? The engineer pool, 60% of the batch is engineers. So
yes,
it doesn't matter as long as you've had achievements that you can talk about, it should be good.
I think two things become very important for you. Like the essay becomes all the more important for what vision you can make the college see with the profile that you're coming from. This is your opportunity. If you can put your essay forward in a way that's unique compared to every other person who's coming from your background, that's where it makes a difference. Second place where you can really thrive is your extracurricular section. And sometimes we undervalue the amount of extracurricular we've done. Like we are currently going through this process of resume writing for ourselves, right? Job applications. And it makes us realize that we've done so much in our lives. When you just make an Excel and start putting down every tiny little thing you've ever done in your life, which was extracurricular, and you'll realize you've done a lot. And there is a lot of value that you do have as a person. Make sure that you're putting that into your profile. You'll be fine.
Great. So we go with the next hand raised. Meher, please, can you go ahead with the question?
Hi, everyone. My name is Meher, and I'm a consultant with Deloitte with 4 years of WorkX. Thank you so much for this, doing this, first of all. And I have 3 questions for you. My first question is regarding the essays. I've always wondered what should be the tone of the essay. Does it have to be strictly formal or can it be a little informal? That's my first question. And okay, I'll tell my all 3 questions at one go. My second question is, so I'm an engineer and I have a BTech in electronics and communication, and then I got campus placed to Deloitte. But during my WorkX only, I got passionate about psychology. And I started a correspondence course and I did my master's along with my work. And I did a correspondence in psychology for just the sheer joy of learning. So does my correspondence education will be considered in ISB? Like, will they consider it as a valid education? And my third question is, how much weightage does ISB give to extracurriculars? Because when I sit down to evaluate my own profile, I do see that I'm okay in terms of my scholastics, but I'm fair enough, I'm good enough in my extracurricular. So that stands out. And most 80% of my essays, mostly my extracurriculars. So is it 90-10 or Is it 60-40 or is it 50-50? So how do I balance my education and my extracurriculars on my essay? So those are my 3 questions.
I think you can distribute all these 3 questions amongst yourself one by one. Who goes first?
I'll take the extracurricular part, the third question. So should I go first?
Anything.
Yeah. So initially, when I wrote the first draft of my essay reflected like 70% of extracurriculars and 30% of corporate experience. But you need to understand that the people who come to hire you after the PGP program are definitely going to look into your professional life as well. So you need to give it appropriate weightage. I understand that either the goals post ISB should be connected to your curriculars well enough for you to use 80% of your extracurriculars in your essays. So be clear about that. What are your goals post ISB? When you decide on your goals post ISB, don't look at your essays as an individual entity. It's just a story of yours which is going to extend to the time after you're done with ISB, right? Like, okay, I used to be this, I enjoy doing this. Post ISB, with the help of ISB, I'm going to do this. This should be the actual flow of the essay, right? So now you can't put a number to it, right? 70, 30, 60, 40, or 50, 50, as you said in your essays. Like, you can't put a number on it, but just make sure if it's adequately connected and it's reflecting your transferable skills and your passion as well, I think it's good enough. And you don't need to be, very selective about percentages over there. That's all from me.
Just wanted to add one thing here. I think what Kunal said is obviously very valid, but you didn't mention you have 4 years of work ex. And if after having 4 years of work ex, if most of your essay talks only about extracurriculars, it might not show that in a very good light, right? It might sort of, you're nudging someone to think in the direction that maybe this person hasn't done much at work, which is why they're not talking about it, right? And you don't want that to be a situation. Yes, you can have stellar extracurriculars and by all means talk about it. But if you have 4 years of work ex, then my recommendation, and this is a personal recommendation, is give it its due weightage, because 4 years is substantial work ex. You're at the average ISB work ex. You're looking at average ISB work ex.
Yeah. So the other facets of the question.
You'd spoken about. So just want to further on Harshal's point. Yeah, I would, if I were in your place, I would at least go for a 60-40 there. It's very essential to talk about what you're doing at work. I agree, because in the way the profile questions are structured, you do get to talk substantially about your work before, but do talk about the work that you've done, because I'm pretty sure you've created an impact where you are. So make sure you bring that out. Again, somebody who comes from primarily an extracurricular space, I'd still recommend that. Tone of the essay, mine was semi-formal. I don't know what the standard is, because I'm not aware of like how the other people on the panel wrote their essays. Mine was, it literally started with a conversation that I was having with a colleague. And I've literally put like dialogues and inverted commas in it. At the same time, don't get too carried away. Do not try to break the fourth wall and talk to the person on the other end who's reading the essay, putting cute little things within the bracket. Because as I said, coming back to my quote from before, it's not a blog. It's a content piece that you're writing for yourself, where every word is measured and you are representing your own brand. Do not make it bland, because yes, adding a little bit of, semi-formality, it brings out character. It brings out who you are, it brings out your personality. But it's good when it's in splashes, like, a sentence here or maybe like a remark there. But that's about it. I would limit it to less than 5% of my essay. Does that help?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.
Great. So the next one is Mohini. Mohini, I'm allowing you to talk. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi everybody. My question is that I have a work experience of 3.7 years in corporate Zensa. After that, I left my job to do some family reason. And 2 years I didn't, like, I was not into any corporate or something. Then I started with freelancing. in IT itself. As a trainer, I started, and then into Scrum and Agile and all. I did the certification and I did. And also in the meanwhile, I co-founded a small NGO, like with my aunt. She was from very many years, and I co-founded her. So how can I will justify that this is my gap, and because and freelancing. So how I will take the LOR with because that corporate job is the way back, right? So from whom I will take the LOR, first question, and how I will justify this gap.
Himanshu, would you like to take it?
Yeah, I'm not very sure about the LOR bit, but if I heard you correctly, I think in the meantime, while you were on a break, you started working on that NGO, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely you have something to write about and be honest about it, and you can tell them, the process has started this and that, and finally it bore fruits after a couple of years when I had an active part in the NGO and all that. So you do mention about it, that how the process happened. The process itself takes time. You suddenly might have started learning about the NGO and then took a bigger role in the NGO. So do talk about that process. And LOR, I'm not sure if you are freelancing, I think you can take it from one of your clients. But since I didn't go through that, I'm not sure if that works.
But
I think
our client is, we cannot disclose that who is the client because we're the third party. So in that case, like I can take from my co-owner or co-trainer or something like that.
A question to you here, because my LOR was written by my client. So even if you're saying that it's a third party, there is obviously an agency through which you're working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can get it from them. Basically, there must be somebody who's putting you in touch with whomever, and they have a certain amount of experience working with you, and they can definitely write on your behalf if you feel that they are suitable enough to write for you. Otherwise, if you still want to go back to somebody who worked with.
One more thing in the essay, like we have to list the long-term and short-term goal, right? So how I will, is it compulsory to connect my experience with that long-term or short-term goal? Like that is a major. So can you please guide me a bit that how I will connect it? Because it's totally currently it's totally in the edutech. The NGO is also about educating the unprivileged one. This freelancing is all about educating, giving training. So how I will connect to that? My aim is to become a product manager, like especially. So that's how I will connect.
Okay, and have you worked? And you're saying you're from an IT background, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is consistency in your story. I mean, you come from an IT background, you've been working in edtech, and then you could speak about how the product management roles that you're looking at are also maybe somewhere in the edtech space or around that, or even if it's not in the edtech space, at the end of the day, you have worked in sort of that industry. It's about how you tie the dots together, where you can justify that my education was this, from which I learned whatever that I did. I mean, I come from a history background and I managed to justify getting into business, right? So it was just about like whatever, you could just pick up on whatever you learned here, how that is transferable to the industry that you went to, and how whatever you've learned in this particular industry or whatever work you've done in the last few years is transferable to the next job or role you seek for yourself. These could be technical skill sets, or these could also be soft skills. And we often overlook soft skills, when we're writing our essays, but you could speak about those as well.
Okay. And in interview, like, is there any just essay we have to write also, because somebody was saying, yes, you have to write it on the spot. They're giving any topic and you have to write. So is that true? Because some are saying yes, some are saying no. No.
I think that's an old concept where on the spot people were given chits that had a word written on it.
Because we give our GMAT when there was a essay was excluded, like during the
that used to happen earlier. It doesn't happen.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And just one more point that I'd like to tell you is Srishti was just mentioning about how you have an IT background, you've done edtech, and you can link that. But one thing you need to, which I feel you're missing, point is people use MBA to pivot out of what they're doing into something entirely new, right? And and you could do something exactly similar, right? It doesn't have to be that whatever you've done in the past is exactly what you have to do in MBA, and post that also you have to do the same thing. You can always, for you, MBA could be a way out of what you're doing into something that you wish to do, which you haven't had a chance to do yet.
Yeah, that
Right.
is but a post MBA, right? But in the essay, I have to connect something
No,
with my past.
no. Your essay can honestly say that MBA is something I wanted to do because it equips me with certain skills or knowledge that I can use to get into this new profile.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mohini. I'll just give a small story. In fact, it's not a story even. It's a real life incident. I was having one of these info sessions in Jaipur, and we had one of the senior alums from ISB. He was probably a pass out of 2007 or 2008. And just to give his story of where he came from and where did he go, it'll give an idea to everybody that it is not always that you need to be connected, right? Sometimes you can basically make a transmutation in your career, entire metamorphosis for which you are coming to ISB. So he was somebody who did his BTech electrical engineering from IIT, MTech electrical engineering from IIT again. And after passing out from ISB, he opened a hospital, So you understand, like past experience is very important, but where can you utilize it? It's absolutely up to you. So as our panelists were explaining, yes, there are a few things that you can write to expound where you want to go with your kind of experience, but you can be absolutely on a different path altogether. So that is also acceptable by us, as you should just be able to explain it. So that's the gist of it.
How much is the weightage of English language like in that? Because I come from a state board, so how much is the weightage of? I can speak, but maybe not that much fluent. Like how much over my profile?
So look, Srishti, would you like to go for it?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
No, I mean, she was actually emphasizing and she was actually asking about the importance of being extremely fluent in English.
Not really. I mean, you need a basic amount of English because you will give your GMAT or your GRE, which is going to get you through. But and basic conversational English, as long as you can converse with somebody and explain to them, like you can make a conversation enough that we understand what you're saying. I don't think it's absolutely essential for you to speak impeccable English. I don't know, is it because like all of us in the panel talk in a certain way? Because it just happens to be that we do. There are and I am trained to talk like that, but there are enough number of people in our batch who may or may not be as fluent in English, and everyone kind of adjusts to whatever language they speak. We're very big on diversity. There are enough people who speak in Telugu, enough people who speak in Hindi.
So language is just a vehicle to deliver the content. So we just need to have that much of a proficiency. Nobody expects you to be talking in Shakespearean English. So don't worry about it.
Good English in management is always an edge. Like
yes.
Mohini, you need to understand something. Because Shrishti told one side of the story, I'll tell you the harsher side of the story. The employers after ISB, right? They'll be talking to you. If you're not able to communicate properly, you will be at a disadvantage. And this is something you can improve upon yourself, right? And you're opting for a course where you are going to learn the whole basics of management in 1 year. And trust me, that is not easy. So if you cannot portray yourself as someone who can learn or improve her communication skills, then it will act as a disadvantage for you. I'm not saying that English is a problem. I'm saying communication is a problem. So if you feel that you're not consistently are being able to communicate your thoughts in a proper way, do work on that. Because language is one thing, and writing, jotting down your thoughts and communicating to the other person is an entirely different ballgame. So focus on that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Abhinav, you want to go ahead?
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, loud and clear.
Hello, everyone. Sir, I completed my graduation in 2016. After that, I have been working in my family business. It's an advertising agency. Other than that, I haven't worked anywhere else. but the advertising business is at a decline since Corona. So I was thinking of starting something new after maybe ISB, or working for 2-3 years in a MNC and then starting something of my own. One of the alums of ISB, Akshay Chaturvedi, who has started Leverage Edu, he's an inspiration. He's a known. So sir, how can I write my essays? I mean, how should I show my business? I mean, it's not that big a organization. Earlier it was a 8 crore turnover. Now it's 2 and 3. After the Corona, it's on a decline. So sooner or later we'll have to take a harsh decision of closing it out. So what should I mean, how should I write my essays, and from where should I get my LOR?
Is your business closely tied to clients?
Yes, ma'am.
Please get your LOR from one of your clients who you have a good relationship with. That's number one. Second, like as we've covered in points earlier when we spoke about startups, it doesn't matter if your startup has fallen through or how it's performing at the moment, etc. What matters is that you've started it up and what you did with it. Were you able to bring value with it? See, there are less than 1% of startups that actually work and actually make it big. If we were all so good, as I've stated before, we would not need to come to business school. So just show how you've genuinely utilized this time, show the skill set that you've kind of gained while working on your company. And that's basically the way to present it. Everybody in life has not always been successful.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's perfectly fine to fail.
Ma'am, first of all, it's not an, startup. It was set up in 1992. My father set it up, but I've been working there, and from the last 1 and 2 years, I've been handling a lot of things. So, but the overall business is on a decline. The whole industry is on a decline since people have stopped reading newspapers. Everything is available online or on telephones. So that's why I was thinking of, I don't exactly know what should what will I start? That's what I want to join ISB for, so that I have a clear mindset what I want to start. But that's clear that I want to start something of my own.
Abhinav, just one thing I'd like to clarify, and maybe I understood you wrong, but ISB is not going to sow an idea into your mind of what you want to start up tomorrow. Okay, that has to come from you, or it could come from a brainstorming sessions with your friends.
Yes.
So just a simple clarification is, don't have a notion or an expectation that coming to ISB is going to solve the problem of you not having an idea. That probably won't happen. What it will do is it will equip you with skill sets that might help you to build a business tomorrow. That is what is the purpose of a B school, right? That is number one. Number two is, even though your family business might be on a decline, does not take away the impact you've created in it so far. Okay, you've been working there for a while, and I'm sure you've done things that are noteworthy during your time there. So just because of macro factors which were beyond your control, your business has taken a hit, and now potentially you might have to take decisions that are not great, does not dilute the impact you've had on your business, right? So as long as you can put your impact into words and put it on an essay, I think from a B school application angle, you should be okay. What happens from a future startup angle is an entirely different ballgame.
Sir, ma'am, you were telling about the LOR. So will the client be contacted? I mean, I'll have to tell him that you will be contacted, so you will be available. You should be available at that time.
So Abhinav, what I'll do is I'll take this one. Abhinav, what will happen is you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll tell you the complete story of how the LOR is done, because we are 10 minutes into the session. Probably we'll take more questions. So just connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Ketan Tiwari, and this LOR question, we are talking about it tomorrow morning. Correct?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have Priyanshi. Priyanshi, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
First of all, thank you everyone for this wonderful session. You all are so down to earth. I really felt like I was talking to my seniors here. And let me brief my history somewhat in a very short way, then I'll come to my question quickly. I was being born and brought up in a very small town, and as you people know, the Indian families, it's like just get the marks and everything is on the other side. So I was pushed towards that, and I did pretty well with my academics. And along with that, I was able to play some sports in my school days and in my college also. But after completing my engineering, I was able to crack TCS in my first go. And after that, I have been working with TCS since past 8 years. And I have been in a leadership role where I have built a project for CSVTU, one of the largest university in Chhattisgarh, for in the university which I had graduated from. I had created a project for them from scratch, and that was a really cool thing to do in my sense. And now coming to my question is, I don't have any sort of this big NGO experience, or if you may say, I was not a part of any NGO, big NGO drive to show my extracurricular. Of course, I have been training in some few dance forms or something like that. But to show my extracurriculars in such a broad way, I don't have anything like that. So how could I balance my essay in that way? I just wanted to ask you people about it. That's it.
Himanshu, would you go for it?
Yeah, I'll go for it. So I think I can draw a parallel there. Even I come from a family, I'm probably the first one who is doing an MBA in my family. So, and also I come with a similar work ex, close to 7 years. So I think, you need not to have spike everywhere. You have substantial work ex. I'm pretty sure you can mention a lot about your work ex, because in 8 years, you would have created impact. If you can't think of it right away, if you do a little bit of introspection, you'll definitely come up with points. Do mention that. And you, as you mentioned, you have been part of sports, and to talk about that, you need not to have done everything, like right from sports to travel to certain spikes are okay.
Sports also, Himanshu, I would, sorry to interrupt, but sports also, I was not a district level or something like inter-school. I played, inter-college I have played, but as you know, the conservative mindset was there. I was not allowed to go somewhere because of that. After I was having the job, I was able to go to Pune, and in Pune, actually, I started exploring everywhere. So at that, from 2015-14, you may say, I actually started exploring the world around me. Even I had learned belly dance in Pune. I was very desperate to learn that. I was not even allowed to do that in my hometown. So because of that, I lagged there. And right now, it feels very desperate to join any NGO just for the sake of admission. I think the panel would completely sense it that I have joined just for the sake of it.
But extracurricular doesn't just mean that you need to have worked with an NGO. Dancing is an extracurricular, and it is something that you've consistently been doing for the years. You did sports in school and college. That is extracurricular. So, Zabardasti ka social work, if you're going to try to show, they'll catch you in your interview.
Yes.
So just stick to what you've actually done. You've taken initiative, you've gone, you've learned belly dance, whatever. That's more than enough. And you have your spikes in other places. You work for TCS for like 8 years. Relax. Just fill the application, you'll be fine. I don't think you need to overthink it so much. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And again, thank you so much for this lovely session. Thank you.
Next one, Kshitij, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, Kshitij.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, good evening to all of you, and a big thank you to all of you because of all the pointers you have given in the short amount of time we have been here. So my question is specifically to the goals question, where we'll have to mention our goals. So I think Srishti mentioned that, I mean, in our goals, maybe we can try to be more specific about where we look, where we want to reach, let's say in terms of a particular designation or any particular organization. So, so for a while, I was thinking that probably I would like to go into consulting, but very recently I thought maybe product management could be a good role to pursue. So is it okay that if I mention both things in my in the answer for the short term and the long term goals, and what other things probably we can mention in that particular question.
Who's going for it?
Harshal, you want to start?
Sure.
I'll go for it.
I'd say you'd be walking on thin ice if you do that. I would not recommend putting in two favored profiles because I think a big part of doing an MBA and a big part of your application and interview process will be your panelists trying to gauge how clear you are about what you want, right? And while theoretically speaking, an MBA might help you both in consulting and product, it just shows that you're still mentally not there where you've made up your mind about what you really want to do, right? And the only issue with doing that and putting both is that your application is going to come in with thousands of others who are going to show absolute laser focus about what they want to do, right? And that becomes the differentiator then, right? If I have one seat available and two candidates with one saying 100% sure shot consulting hi karna hai, I don't want to do anything else. And then there is one who said, I'm not so sure, I might do product, I might do consulting. It is natural to sort of lean towards the one person who's very clear about what they want to do. And it becomes that much easier for the school to coach them to get where they want to get also, right? So that would be my sort of take on this. It helps to be clear, but it is also fine to not know. I'm not trying to beat you down on the fact that, oh, if you're not clear, then tumhara kuch nahi hoga. That's not the case. I have friends here who are still, and we are headed head first into placements, who still don't know what they want to do, right? Does not mean you're any lesser than
Harshal,
people out
don't
there.
take pot shots like that at me.
But yeah, I mean, having clarity helps, at least from an application standpoint. Definitely being more clear about what you want to do will be an added advantage.
I'll share a different experience with you. So in my interview, I was asked how sure I was about my short-term goal. And I told them I was not. Because I spoke to a lot of people and I was told that you have to be really sure about your long-term goal. Because that's what your passion reflects, right? What do you want to be in the future? Like, how do you see yourself growing up, right? But how do you get there is a short-term goal. So your short-term goal, two paths can lead you to a similar destination, right? So if you're confused about two short-term goals, but they are eventually leading you to a common long-term goal, I think then it's not a problem. But if you are just diversifying too much and saying, okay, on one hand you want to go for consulting, the other hand you want to go for product management, I don't see them merging anywhere in the future. So that's a big no.
It was mostly like it's like 80-20, 80% consulting and 20% product. It's mostly because I mean, I am living with a friend of mine who is a product manager, and it's just that on a daily basis I get to know what he does professionally, and from there I kind of got interested into the kind of work he was doing. So that's the only thing.
But,
probably I'll go with consulting.
Is your interest enough to get you into product management or consulting? That's a question that you need to ask yourself, and that's a question that you need to map your transferable skills to the job profiles and the skills they require. So if the college is convinced that your skills match up to that point at some, with the help of ISB, then it's not a problem. Otherwise it is.
Friendly advice, and this is just a personal thing. It's absolutely okay to be confused. You don't need to let them know you are. Just make them see that you have a very clear goal. You're very sure of what you want to do. Defend it unto death. That's what I did. So yeah, it's okay. I came into the MBA thinking that I will learn what I'll learn here, and then I'll figure my path. But the process of finalizing what you can do also makes you visualize what you will be able to do with your ISB education. At least you have one thing sorted, and you have the option of coming here and exploring multiple things and realizing, okay, your interest lies in something else. Like I was clear, make marketing karna hai, but after coming here, I was like, okay, you know what? Strategy is also very well suited to me. It's okay, but like till you're in, I think stick to one story. It'll benefit you.
Thank you. I just have one more question. So while assessing the essays of all the applicants, is there a particular checklist in mind of the admissions team, like leadership, it's okay, extracurriculars, it's okay, or like is there one standard set of parameters on which the admissions team judges all the profiles while admitting students?
Ketan, I think you should take this question.
Sorry, I could not hear. In fact, I was replying to somebody on a chat. Can you please repeat?
Kshitij, actually, if you have been listening to the whole session, I think I have a checklist, and we all have iterated that more than once. So nothing out of what we've already spoken will be, is a part of the checklist that admissions team is going to see.
So Kshitij, what you can do is, my best friend's name is Kshitij. I'm not saying just for the sake of it. It really is. And Tiwari is my surname. So you basically fit into my scheme of things, right? So what you can do is, I mean, you just, search my name, Ketan Tiwari, on LinkedIn. Tomorrow we can have a long discourse on what we are looking at, and I'll explain things to you in detail. Will that work?
Yeah, I've already done that. I've sent you a request on LinkedIn.
Perfect. So, I mean, unfortunately, with the end of this question, we also come to the end of this session. And I'm very thankful to Kunal, Shrishti, Harshal, and Himanshu for taking out this time from the kind of schedule, the kind of crazy busy schedule that they have. And I cannot explain that more of how busy they are. But I'm sure with the kind of answers they gave, the kind of explanations they gave to the queries which you people have, at least some of the queries must have been resolved, right? And we'll be coming back with these kind of sessions every week. So that is not the last session that we are having. For the benefit of everyone, again, my name is Ketan Tiwari. I'm a part of admissions team. You can search for me on LinkedIn and just send me a friend request. Any of the queries that you people might have, we'll be more than happy to get onto a call and solve them, right? Thank you very much, all the panelists that we have. I mean, probably I'm coming to Hyderabad very soon. Probably I'll catch up with you people there. It has been like 2 months away from the campus, so it'll be great again. And thank you all the participants for being here and listening to us patiently. And best of luck if you are planning to apply in round 2 of the PGP, or you are a YLP candidate. October deadline, 15 deadline is round the corner. Thank you very much. And we are ending this webinar. Hope to see you soon again, right? Thank you all the panelists for the kind of time which they have given for this webinar. Thank you very much.
Sure. All the best, everyone.
All the best.
Thank you, Ketan, and all the best to all the participants.
Thank you. Thank you.